content, subscribe to our channel, hit the notification bell, and like our posts.
Well, a very big welcome to all our attendees this morning to another exciting webinar, of course, an important one as always. And wherever you are, please tell us where you are. It's always nice to see where our delegates, our attendees coming from. And of course, just a couple of pointers. As we go along, if something goes wrong with technology, and it does sometimes, fortunately, we've been good with that. Stay with us, we'll be back. But I'm confident that's not going to happen. And yeah, this morning it's great. And of course, as we do know, it's also 2 weeks to go to the Business Show Africa coming up, the biggest B2B business event in Africa, of course, hosted at the Sandton Convention Center on the 4th and 5th. So if you haven't got your ticket, please grab your free ticket because only pre-registration is free. And of course, Experian will be there in a big way in the Access to Finance zone. So the bizshow.africa with a Z, please get your ticket, join us at Convention Center. It'll be great to host you. So yes, this morning it's all about, of course, our journey with Experian have been amazing. It's a big partnership. And of course, we have spent many webinars and platforms and breakfasts and shows together, really encouraging and helping business owners to become financially fit. And it's such an important area, so overlooked. And of course, it's our responsibility together with Experian to really help you guys out there to really become financially fit and show you how you can achieve that objective. And this morning, we're going to continue that conversation. This morning, of course, the topic is the burden of bad credit, the impact on consumers and businesses. I'd like to welcome Paul Nel, who's the Innovation Consultant, a Senior Executive of Experian, a friend of the NSBC. And of course, I've had the opportunity of learning a lot from Paul, Jaco, Taryn, Ans, and the whole team and of course, Fadi at Experian over the past few years. It's in such an important area for me because I think it's probably one of the most important things that any business owner or consumer can do is to make sure that they are financially fit. Paul, a big welcome to you as always. You of course, this has done this a few times now, and of course we got things right. But Paul, welcome again, and good to see you.
Thanks, Mark. Lovely to see you again. It's nice to be back on your show, and a very good morning to everyone out there. And hopefully we can have a nice, interesting conversation today.
Well, absolutely, absolutely. And so, guys, tell us where you're from, and if you've got any questions, please pop them onto the chat. And as always, if we can't get to your questions, we will get to you after the event this morning or the webinar this morning, because sometimes it goes at the speed of light, so we can't always get to them. But please pop them onto the chat box, and let's see if we can assist you while we're having a chat with Paul this morning. And I just want to give a quick summary here. I've just got this on my desk now. The long-term effects of a bad credit score. This is what we'll be talking about this morning. The long-term effects of a bad credit score, how businesses can mitigate risks associated with customers with poor credit, and how to fix your credit score, challenging the information on your credit report, and advice around managing your credit score and report. So these areas are pretty cool, and I know all our attendees, even outside our Experian webinars, you'll all know that I talk about this when I open a talk, when I close a talk, because as I said earlier, it's important and we can never stop learning around this. And what Paul will come to in a few moments, which I've learned from Paul and his team, is that you are in control to become financially fit. And we're going to share more into that in a few seconds. Paul, I've got a couple of questions this morning, and I'd like you to just enlighten us. Paul, let's start off by asking the question, what are the long-term effects of a bad credit score?
Thanks, Mark. And yeah, just before I answer that question, we're looking forward to being at the Biz Show in a couple of weeks' time. Really excited about the opportunity and being able also to engage face-to-face with some of the people there as well. So look out for us. We're going to be there. Our teams are going to be there. We're going to be practically helping as well, not just talking about these things. So really excited.
Paul, absolutely, Paul. And as we all know, Experian is a big player at the Business Show Africa. You're one of our key sponsors. You, of course, host the Access to Finance zone, which is going to be a highlight at the Business Show. So please, guys, make sure you get to the Experian zone, Access to Finance zone. It's going to be great. So, sorry, Paul, back to that question.
Yeah, no, we're back to the question. So we get excited about 2 weeks' time, but let's just focus on what we're doing now. I think the question relating to the long-term effect on your credit record is an important one. I mean, just to start off with, I think a lot of people are sometimes shy or ashamed to look up what their credit score is, and some people don't even know how to do it, and we'll talk through that a little bit later. But I just want to encourage every single one of you, from your personal perspective, that your credit score is effectively that your credit score, and it's your credit reputation. We talk about it extensively at Experian about how do we help people understand that it's their piece of data, it's their piece of information that they can have a look at. And so the first thing is about transparency and visibility. Do you actually know what your credit score is? And if you do know what the credit score is, what does it actually mean for you? How do you fit into the different environments? And again, I'm just going to highlight very quickly that we have an app called Up, which you can see behind me over here. And it's up.experian.co.za. I encourage every single one of you to please go onto that, register, find out what your credit score is. You get access to your credit report for free for life, which is phenomenal. And then you'll be able to actually really understand what the credit bureau and the credit providers are looking at. So that's the visibility, the transparency part, which I think is important. When you go through it, you might be surprised by some of the things that you see there. You might realize that you've got phone numbers from 10 years ago, or addresses which no longer exist, or sadly, some people have accounts open in their name and they don't know about it or haven't been closed. And that's what you need to interrogate, first of all, to truly have an understanding of what your credit status is. If your credit score is poor and the score indicates whether it is or bad, there can be some very long-term impacts for you. If you don't do anything, the history of your bad credit record sits there and is calculated every single month. And as a result of that, if you're not cleaning up or making improvements on your credit report, it's going to sit and linger. And that hurts you. That could potentially hurt you as a consumer and as a business, really, as well, in terms of you might not get access to credit because the credit providers have an appetite of risk. And they do not want to be involved with someone who they're seeing is risky. They're mitigated through a variety of reasons, which we'll talk about now. But there is that opportunity that is lost because you're not managing your credit report. Sometimes when you do get access to credit, there is an appetite that a credit provider might have. They will probably be charging you higher interest rates or reduced tenors or give you a lower amount than what you're applying for, or asking for high levels of security or collateral, these type of scenarios. So the impact of a negative credit score, a poor credit score, is that you will not optimize the opportunity to get access to credit from that sort of perspective. And I think that's an important thing to consider. Even if you have got an adequate credit score, you need to be cognizant of the fact that you should be on a regular basis checking on it. Go check your credit report every single month at up.experian.co.za just to see what's happening, and you're going through a variety of different factors to improve that, which we will touch on now. But that's important. The long-term impact is that you probably are not going to be leveraging the opportunities that you could. You're probably not being able to get access to credit, which will help in the various situations that you have from an individual perspective. And then even as a business, if you're a business owner, we'll talk just now about how you as a how your consumer credit score impacts that as well. So if you aren't taking ownership today for understanding what your credit report says about you, and then putting into steps to improve that, the long-term effects could be quite detrimental and a niggling hamstring injury for a while, if I could put it that way.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, Paul. Now, talking further, how can businesses mitigate risks associated with customers with poor credit?
Yeah, so this is one of the things that I was excited to talk about today. I think, some of the things that we've had conversations around is about the consumers and talking to businesses. But at the end of the day, everyone here on the call is a small business owner or a medium-sized business owner, soon to be, and we declare it, a large business owner. There we go. It's all about growth. And some of you out there at the moment also provide credit facilities or credit offerings to your customers. So it's critically important when you are analyzing your potential clients from a credit risk perspective, that you do it in a way which is, number one, according to the law. So, some people say, well, the National Credit Act is cumbersome and all these things. Yeah, yes, it is. But it's important to understand that regulation is protection. And that's something that you should never forget at the same time. These regulations are put there for the best interest of everybody. And so number one is, when you are assessing the credit risk of a potential customer or a customer of yours, please act within the ambit of the regulation. That's fundamentally important because it is helpful. Then if you are talking to customers about that, accessing their credit report with their consent, obviously, you have to build in processes to get their consent to access their report and their score, is vitally important. And it's one of the things that we support in terms of businesses being transparent about collecting data, why collecting and for what purposes. If you're a business owner assessing a consumer for a risk perspective, that credit report is crafted exceptionally well. We've talked about this before. All credit providers submit data to SACRA on a monthly basis. That data from SACRA is consolidated, cleaned, and sent out to all the credit bureaus. The credit bureaus then use their expertise to build the credit scores and risk assessment profiles. And those are effectively sold to you as a business owner to be able to manage decisions. The credit bureau doesn't provide a credit score for decision making. It's a recommendation for you to make your ultimate decision. So always keep that in mind. But those scores are up to date, accurate, and sound. And you as a business owner can rely on the credit data that comes from Experian in order to help you make decisions. And so that's very important. So when there is a snapshot of a consumer who is high risk or average risk, really take that into consideration, build up your risk appetite to determine how you want to potentially do business with that person, that individual or those individuals. There may be times when they are not credit worthy, and then you won't want to take a risk with them as a business. It's a tough decision to make because you're looking for revenue growth, but sometimes it's too risky. But again, just come back and be transparent. If you are going to decline people in your business, say, this is the reason why we declined you. And I think that's just fair. Because that then gets to another point of being able to really understand who you're wanting to deal with and how you can create a loyalty as well at the same time. That's from a consumer perspective. But as a business, there's also B2B opportunities. So there's a lot of work and scope around how can I assess other companies to do business with them as well. And at Experian, we also have business credit scores that are also built and available. What's interesting about that is that the business credit score is not as highly regulated by the National Credit Act. So there's a determination, which you'll talk about just later, how you split. But there are credit scores available, and always take that into consideration, because the data that is utilized for a consumer credit score is different to the data that is utilized for a business credit score. But the two go hand in hand in terms of assessing. But what I'm saying is that when there is the risk of when you're determining if you want to provide credit to a consumer, always rely on the core data that you can get from Experian to help you in that sort of space as well. And one of the things that we love is that this is where the scope of growth sits in the South African economy going forward. We want to support the stimulation of economic growth, and one of those things is the growth in credit and other areas of funding in a responsible way. And I think that's the key component that we're looking at. Responsibility sits from all parties, doesn't it? It sits from the consumer and managing their credit score. It sits from the business managing their performances. It sits with the credit provider being able to assess in a responsible and professional way, and deliver from those sort of perspectives. So that's just something that we always wanted to have a look at. And then, when you are a business and when you are providing facilities to somebody, always take into consideration that you can price differently based on risk assessment. You could give a lower interest rate to a really low risk customer, and then you can price it a little bit more without being overly aggressive. And I don't want to get into strategy here and all those sort of things, but you need to manage your risk as a business owner as well. But always be fair and always act within the regulations and never be reckless. That's the one thing that I've learned from this industry.
Yeah. Paul, I've got a great question from Miracle. In fact, I get this question often. Does checking your credit score every month have a negative effect on your score?
No, it doesn't.
Okay.
So there's a couple of things which impact a credit score, and we can talk a little bit that. But if you are going to if you register on app and you get your credit report, you can download it every day if you want to. And we've created this visibility of downloading your credit report. It's not a recordable event, if I could put it that way. So your credit score and your credit report are free for life, and it won't impact you at all. And we're doing that for a couple of reasons. Number one is that because, again, it's your credit report, isn't it? It's your credit score. So why must you be paying for that, or why must you be penalized from your credit score if you're just checking your score? Obviously, it's different for credit applications because number of credit applications impacts the algorithm which builds out a credit score. But I mean, I myself have downloaded my credit report numerous times, and it has no impact at that as well. So again, every time you listen to someone talk from Experian, we always say the same thing. Please go to up.experian.co.za, register. It's very safe and secure. We will ask you a couple of questions to confirm that you are who you say you are. So the verification component, there's some one-time password processes that you need to go through. But we do that because we believe in privacy, and we believe in security, and we believe in making sure that your information is safe. So please have a look at that. We are continually improving the product on an ongoing basis. So now, if, for example, you can agree to notifications, so if there is a credit inquiry on your ID number, you get notified immediately. We are radically improving the amount of content around financial wealth and information, and you can have a look at that as well, because that is not only about your credit report and your credit score, it's also helping you understand the complexity of this financial world. I mean, it's complex stuff. It's not sometimes it's rocket science, but it's not simple as making a sandwich sometimes, But so we've got cartoons, we've got articles, we've got videos, we've got links to audio sort of content as well to help you, the consumer, understand how to improve your own financial health. So not limited to credit, but an overall sort of financial health element at the same time, with a tease of running small businesses as well. So what are the core components? You have a look at that. We have a series of cartoons that are easily understandable and relatable, and some up-to-date relevant articles and to help you be more, what do I want to say? I want to help you be more confident. Yeah, that's the word. I want to be confident in your financial well-being and your financial health. So yeah, I'd encourage every single one of you to do that, because it really is great.
No, absolutely, Paul. Now, this is a big question that comes through often, and I think it's such an important one. What can be done, Paul, to fix a credit score?
Yeah, so let's just, first of all, Mark, you spot on. You can fix and improve your credit score. That's the reality of it. And a lot of people say, I've got a poor credit score, I've got 540 or whatever the number is, which I'll talk about that now as well. And they get into panic mode and they go hard under their duvet, and then unfortunately they don't do anything about it. But again, like we mentioned before, your credit score is your credit score. So there's a lot of things that you can do to improve it. So the first thing to do is to get hold of your credit report. You can download it as a PDF, you can print it out, or whatever the story is, but then interrogate it, go through it step by step. There's information around who you are, the contactability. So what happens is every time that you have applied for a credit product, you found that you've had to put in your address, you've had to put in your contact number, etc., etc. Now, historically, if I applied for a vehicle loan in 1998, okay, and I had a Durban phone number. That Durban phone number was still on my credit report because I haven't cleaned it up. So that's the first thing. Go and have a look at your contactability, and you can get your credit report through up once again, and start having a look at those things. And I'll talk to you now how to contact the bureau to help clean up that data. So there's that element. The second thing is have a look at your accounts that are open on your credit report. Are they your accounts, first of all? And if they are, do they reflect the accurate amount? But then start making sure that you're paying your accounts on time as agreement. If you miss payments, then you get penalized. So it's vitally important to have that discipline. Now, it's easy in inverted commas, around debit orders. They go off and you make the payments. But if there are other accounts that you need to be paying independently, just make sure that you are looking at that. Missing a payment on a debt does damage your report, and we understand that circumstances are, and people do miss payments, unfortunately, because of the situations that they might find themselves in. But always just remember that is the key discipline that you have to have. Here's an interesting sort of turnaround thing as well. If you've missed a few payments and then you do a lump sum to pay, and then you start missing payments again, that also reflects negatively. So there's the consistency of paying off on a monthly sort of payment, that you have to look at that sort of stuff. So that's the first thing. Make sure that you build up a very good payment history. Also, just to keep in mind that your credit record is recorded and sort of calculated over a 5-year period. So if you've missed some stuff, it's going to sit there from a luggage perspective, unfortunately. But if you improve your discipline of paying every single month, so your score will improve over time. There is a very, very strong correlation in that your credit reputation is based on behavior and a consistent of behavior. So that's important. The other type of thing that you have a look at to help improve your credit score is to see how many different types of accounts you have. So sometimes, opening a lot of accounts in a short period of time sort of decreases your credit score. Even applying for a variety of different products has an impact in terms of your credit score as well. So if you go to all the banks and you apply for credit cards and you do 19 applications, those 19 applications will have a negative impact. So when you are accessing credit, do your research before, understand what the pricings are, what the requirements are that people have, for example, or companies have for accessing credit, knowing what your credit position is. So being informed again and understanding what are the elements behind it. So when you apply, you're coming in with a high sense of confidence that you will get access to credit. A lot of people are sadly put into embarrassing situations when they apply and they just get declined and for no reason, and you feel like an idiot sometimes, but there might be just something small to fix it. So always keep that in mind. So being responsible in application and then being responsible in payment once you have that sort of debt component as well. Then another thing which I highly encourage you to get stuck into is having a look at on your credit report if there are any judgments against you. If you have sort of like data collection components or debt restructuring elements that are behind you as well, notices of legal elements. Sometimes people don't pay their debt and then they suddenly realize that there's a judgment against them because they haven't been to court, whatever the story is. Those have a very material impact on your credit score. So I'd highly encourage you to go and have a look at that and make sure that there's nothing like that on your score and on your report. And if there is, I'll take you through shortly about how you can challenge or dispute information that's on your credit report in a very comfortable and easy way to help you clear out those sort of things, because that's the other part. There's a behavioral component about payment. There's a behavioral component around application. There is a common sense approach to having multiple sort of loans. So for example, if you have 3 credit cards, 2 personal loans, vehicle finance and a home loan, sometimes that's too much debt across the same sort of product line. So have a look at those sort of scenarios. What you'll see is that as you improve your behavior or as you start cleaning out your credit report, so your score will improve over a period of time, step by step by step by step. And again, it's a journey. And I want to highlight that. This is a journey. This is not something that you'll get an immediate poor to great credit score in 1 month. It's a process of being able to channel your way through the various different behavioral components on the back end of that. So that's sort of the main parts. And again, when you clean up your credit score, we touched on it earlier, but it gives you great access to future opportunity. Gives you better opportunity to get access to credit. It gives you better opportunity to be able to get, even some people use, credit scores to assess rental agreements, which is not dictated by the Credit Act, but use the credit score to determine employment. Sometimes I see, which is a new trend. Can we see your credit score to credit report making a employment decision, which is interesting. But all those sort of things. So again, from a consumer perspective, you have the power to change your credit score and go through that. And then from a business perspective, we're touching on that just now. You also have the ability to improve your business credit positioning as well from a B2B sort of opportunity at the same time.
Paul, since not long ago, I had a discussion with Ans, and since then, this question has come through. My question is quite a few times. I've got a great credit score, and all of a sudden, I check my score and I've got a judgment, but I know that judgment hasn't gone through the legal process and it's incorrect, and I challenge that, and it gets rescinded. Will my credit score go back to the way it was?
Yes, it'll be rectified.
Okay.
Items like judgments and things like that can be rectified immediately. So those.
But again, it won't affect my credit score. It'll go back to my original credit score.
It should. I don't know. Sometimes all the other factors that come into that, but you should get an immediate adjustment because the judgment is cleared from your credit score. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, because I know from an SME environment, apparently it happens quite frequently. Not only SME, but consumers. Let's talk about a consumer now, because a business owner is a consumer, as we know, and the feedback that we often get because of our road with experience that we've had, a lot of attention has been brought that, and it seems to be there's quite a lot of judgment that are passed that haven't gone through the legal process or isn't correct. And is that quite common, Paul?
I mean, Mark, that catches me like surprise, to be honest, because sometimes the data that is collected at a consolidated level comes from a variety of sources, all the credit providers and the courts as well. So judgments come through court submission of data, and that data is then shared with the credit bureaus, like I talked about earlier, to calculate that. So it's not something that'll just someone says, well, Mark, I'm going to say I've got a judgment against you and submit it. So it comes from reliable sources.
Yeah.
And sometimes again, I've seen before that people don't realize that they have a judgment against them because they haven't paid or whatever the story is, and no one, the lawyers don't contact you, and you don't pitch up in court or something like that. It's like traffic fines sometimes, and the next thing, this judgment is put against you, and you haven't been aware of it because it's just a sort of I don't want to say a factory of deliveries, but that data that's on your credit report has not been sucked by sucked out of someone's thumb. It has come from a reliable source.
Yeah.
And so that's the advantage of a query, because if it's there, then you can say, well, let me speak to Experian about this, lodge a complaint, and the investigation can be done, and that can be sorted out, because you might be completely surprised by it. But it's not something that is, like I've said, it's not something that is comes out. It's not vaporware. It doesn't just appear and then it's there. It's come from a source.
Yeah, but I think, Paul, also, with respect, I'm passionate about SMEs and that's my life. But I think a lot of times I say to the business owner or consumer, take responsibility, because maybe look harder at yourself, and maybe it is your fault and your responsibility. But that's okay. Fix it. Because like you've just said, it doesn't just pop up a judgment on your record that easily if it's not correct. So take responsibility for it, investigate it, and if there is something incorrect, challenge it. And that comes to my next question. Can you challenge information, Paul, on your credit report?
Absolutely. You must challenge it. It's as simple as that. If you see something that you don't agree with, if you see something that is wrong or flawed, or something like that, for example, then you must challenge it. There can be things like the judgments, which we're talking about, and something else that just comes to mind is, if you are, for example, a shareholder in a company, and another shareholder, for example, has committed something, and there's a knock-on effect that could come through and sit on your credit record as a principal of a business owner. So that also might be a surprise factor. But challenging something like that is your responsibility, and you should do it. Number one is that it put your mind at ease, first of all. Number two is that that when you submit a lodge a complaint or challenge information on your credit report, it will be dealt with in a very succinct, professional manner as well, so it won't be ignored. That's the commitment that we have towards the consumers and businesses at the same time. And then if it is a mistake, it can be rectified, it can be rescinded, and it can be cleared. And the benefit for you can be seen there quite quickly and strongly as well. So and there's various ways of doing it. There's Experian. We have another product, another website called mycreditcheck.co.za. So that's mycreditcheck.co.za. It's online. You also have to register, which is great, and secure your confidentiality and your privacy to get onto that. But what MyCreditCheck does is it gives you, again, access to your credit report. So it doesn't have the financial wealth and wellness stuff that app has. But it also creates a dispute opportunity there. So there's a little bot called Eddie that pops up on the bottom of your screen over here, little Eddie, and you chat to Eddie. And so what happens is that you go on to Eddie, and Eddie says, thanks for the website link there. Just confirm who you are. So you need to update your ID and proof of address, so we validate who you say you are from that sort of perspective. And then you can lodge your dispute. You can say, there's a judgment against me. This is not my stuff. If you have documentation, for example, some people have had judgments and they have been cleared, there has been rescinded, they've got the court documentation, but the judgment is still sitting in your credit report. Submit that documentation, submit the story, and then our support team will do an investigation. I think there's a 20-day turnaround. Sometimes it can be quicker than that, but that's a sort of scenario as well. We'll do the proper investigations and be in contact with you on a regular basis to let you know what's what and how is it happening. So when you do have a judgment and you do have a court clearance certificate and it's still sitting in your credit report, submit through to that. We'll be able to help you understand and clear that sort of stuff as well. If there's also a call center number, so you can phone our support team direct on 0861 51 41 31. I think it is. It's also on our website, experian.co.za. And then we also have an email address, which is za.supportmymcc@experian.com. We'll share all these with you now, where you can be in contact with our teams as well. And again, rest assured that although you're talking about your personal private information with a support team on the sides of it, we sit with very strong Chinese walls, and the protection of your privacy is 100% assured. And again, I encourage every single one of you, if you do have a judgment or there is something that you're querying or your score doesn't look great, don't be shy or ashamed about it. Commit to improving it. Commit to having a conversation about it and taking the effort to go through that sort of space as well. So those are the steps. And of course, because it's a regulated entity, there's also, just for information, there's the ombudsman that are also available if you have any queries or concerns or challenges. There's the banking ombudsman, the national credit regulator ombudsman, and they are available to you as a consumer and as a business owner to be able to lodge disputes that you may have as well. So that's the next step. So the first step is talk to us at Experian, help us understand what your concerns are. We will do investigations and clear that. If you feel that there is information that is still not being addressed, or if the court says there is a judgment against you and you want to dispute that, then you can still consume it as well. But again, I sound like a broken record, but it's your credit score, your credit report, your reputation, your responsibility. Don't be shy. Just go out and fix it. It takes time and it takes a little bit of admin, but ladies and gentlemen, it is very much worth it. It's worth it.
Well, it's super important stuff. We're talking from an SME perspective and business owners, at the same time consumers. But we can repeat ourselves 100 times a day, and it still wouldn't be enough. And if our collective journey together, if we can get every business owner in South Africa to keep an eye on their credit report once a month, then we've achieved a massive objective. Because not only there'll be access funding, buy vehicles, buy homes, get better rates, better terms. It just has such a catapult effect. And you're 100% right. So it's super important stuff. And there it is. And for all our attendees out there, if you look on your chat there, all this important contact information will be in our webinar replay that you will get via email. So keep your eyes in your inbox and hold on to that replay, because you can refer back at any time. Paul, unfortunately, I've got a final question for you, but I know this is not the end. We're going to do this many more times. What advice would you give around managing your credit score and your report?
I think my advice to that is just, again, it's around discipline. It's around ownership and transparency, if I could put it that way. You as a consumer, and I'll touch on the business side of things as well now, you as a consumer have access to your credit report, have access to your credit score for free through Up. It's as simple as that. Excuse me for saying this, but there's no excuses. That type of stuff as well. And it's vitally important to be 100% aware of what your credit report actually says. Okay. And the only way to do that is to access it and interrogate it, and then do so on a regular basis. There will be some immediate actions which you'll see, well, that's not true, that's not right, and you can action those sort of scenarios. You can start making sure that you go through the discipline of adhering to the requirements that you signed up for in a credit product to pay on time. And I think that's also important as well. The one thing that I want to just highlight, and I see it's probably coming through in a couple of the questions, is how does your consumer credit score impact you as a business owner? And Mike, this is something that we will be talking about extensively at the business show in a couple of weeks' time. It has a material impact sometimes. When you are calculating a business credit score as well, we always have a look at the principal information. So the principal is the business owner, the one who's registered with SIPSI from that sort of perspective. And your status as a consumer has an impact in terms of a calculation of a business credit score. Now, we can have another webinar about how it's calculated and what we're doing around those things, because we are having so much interesting learning curves on the back end of that sort of stuff. But if you're applying for finance as a business and your turnover is less than R1 million a year, according to the National Credit Act, that application as a business is assessed by your ownership. So you as a consumer, your consumer credit score and your consumer credit position is used to assess the application for an organization that has turnover less than R1 million a year. And that's, if you're a business owner and you've been leveraging your own assets and you've been taking out loans to fund your business, that is going to have an impact on the business side as well. The moment you cross over to the R1 million plus, then is a different component. But again, the assessment comes in by having a look at you as the principal SIPC registered owner of a business. So yes, it does impact you being able to buy a new car or take out a credit card, but it also could impact the livelihood of your organization. If you're looking to access working capital to fund something or invoice discounting opportunity, those assessments have a look at you as the business owner, the director, the registered owner of the organization as well. So please, there is material impact on that as well at the same time. So again, it's what I want to highlight is that we have an unbelievably talented team from a support perspective, both on a call center, by email, through our bot access as well, that are passionate about helping consumers and small business owners. And so if you want to query some stuff, if you want to question some stuff, please have a look at that as well. On the link here, on the call here, we've got some of our small business account managers as well. I see one of the questions: how can I get Experian to help us vet some customers? Reach out to our account managers teams. There's Cornet and Co. We can send the details as well, and they can help you understand what the process is, how we can help you understand how to vet your potential customers going forward as well. So we provide those services. We provide the services to, our effectively Experian business model is a B2B model. We help organizations access and we help organizations through insights around the potential consumers and existing consumers and businesses. And so we'll help you from that sort of perspective as well. We've got a phenomenally gifted analytics team as well, which really takes all this sort of data and tries to build algorithms to really understand that when you see a credit score, that it is a true reflection of that individual or that business at the same time. And we spend a lot of time really making sure that does reflect on that. And we're going through sort of journeys as well to have how can we bring in alternative sort of viewpoints that can enhance our understanding around the consumers and the businesses as well, so that they can have bigger access to finance as well. And that's one of the things that we're excited about for the business show coming up in 2 weeks' time. We'll be there on force, and we want to have conversations with all of you about what are the gaps around accessing finance as a business and as a consumer. We'll have our teams on the ground being able to help you individually or collectively. So we're looking forward to that as well, Mike. But again, just to highlight, your credit score, you can get it for free. Check it out. Don't be embarrassed. Put discipline into place. Be transparent about what you look at. Talk to our people to help clear where necessary, and build up your credit reputation, improve your score, and doors will open to you, which will help you in your well-being and going forward as well.
Well, Paul Nel, Innovation Consultant for Experian. Your team, Paul, your passion and your insights have been well received. We thank you for that. And I know this is just the beginning, but truly grateful for what Experian does for the SME environment in South Africa, and for what you and your team do as well. Never stop helping, which is always important. To our attendees out there, thanks for being part of it. Without you, we can't do what we do. So please come and meet Paul and the team at the Business Show Africa. So Paul, thank you very much. And before you guys go out there, attendees, watch the quick video on the Business Show, and we'll see you in 2 weeks' time. And Paul, I look forward to catching up with you as well. Take good care.
Thanks,
all the best.
Everyone, have a great day.